What's going on? How's everyone doing? Good evening, boys and girls. What's up, ASJ? Can you just let me know quickly, quick sound check, everything all right? Can you hear me okay? Just turn my fan off quickly. Cheers, S3. All right, cool. Let's get into it. Yeah, no time like the present. So, today we're looking at the 2024 trade highlights across BTC and Ethereum. It was a request by one of the members in the group to run through my Wall of Fame. Anyone that's followed my content closely know that the office where I work in, one of the walls is completely covered head to toe in screenshots of top tier swing trade setups that occur in range bound bracketing markets, which is 80% of the time. And yeah, people thought it may be of use to run through my Wall of Fame in detail. So that's what we shall do today. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start with BTC. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Let me know if you can see my Word doc all right, and the charts are clear for you. Want to get the okay go, we can crack on. All right, cool. All right, so BTC on the hourly. Those that follow my trading, my system, will know that the hourly is my primary time frame of operation. So most of the trades are on the hourly, some on the 4 hour, but I scope down sometimes to the 30-minute for tighter execution as well. All right, so let's kick things off with this trade, or this setup rather, August the 5th, 2024. So we have a higher time frame low here. This was a higher time frame range low. So we're wiping out a key higher time frame low. We have a tight 1 hour RSI bullish divergence here. Tight meaning it's not like this, it's not a wider looking divergence, it's a small tight div. We have a 30-minute double bull div. So when I say double bull div, I mean that the RSI, which is this indicator, and the awesome oscillator, this indicator. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the RSI, maybe less so with the AO. But really they are both momentum based oscillators, and I want to see agreement between them. What that means is that both oscillators are diverging, right? So we want price to be making these lower lows, the oscillators making higher lows, okay? And you can see on the AO we don't really have that, okay? So this is just sort of just a mound, okay? And usually when the divergences are tight as they are here, you won't see the double hump structure on the AO that we want to be seeing like this, okay? Because it's just too tight, there isn't enough time to form that divergence. But as noted, there is one on the 30-minute where it has more time to span out. And then the last note here is heavy delta and liquidations, okay? So down to the 30-minute, we can see that AO structure that's building out here, okay? So we do have that confirmation, we have that double divergence across the RSI and the awesome oscillator. And you can see how just scoping down to the 30-minute gives you that extra tiny bit of confluence and confidence. Nearly stuttered there and said confidence, but confidence works as well for the trade thesis. And execution wise, we're really just looking at building in this area, really, whatever that looks like. The tightest way of doing so would really be this 30-minute divergence candle confirmation. So here, even though it's a large green candle, relatively speaking, you're taking an anticipated deviation play, right? So that would be how I take this trade personally. The more conservative method would be waiting for the deviation to occur and then either taking this entry here or waiting for the reclaim down here and the retest of the range lows. Or you can take it in an installment method where you take half here and then half once it breaks back inside the range and gives you a bit more confirmation on the move. So yeah, clean wipeout, lots of delta and divergences. We haven't seen the delta yet, but we can scope into that now. So yeah, tons of delta here, right? You can see that even if you're not familiar with using this template, this sticks out to the eye. Okay, we don't need this white rectangle to see that there's a huge cluster of negative delta that's accruing here, and we have liquidations to boot. This is textbook, right? So this is what I call, when we have clusters like this, right, this is what I call a cluster. So this is a spike, this is a cluster, this is an event for me, right? This is what I call a large delta event. And these delta events are typically the slow but powerful moving cogs that really pivot and U-turn the market, right? These are significant points in the market, okay? So exactly what we want to be seeing in this area to bolster our thesis about a potential deviation of the high time frame range lows. What's going on, Ray? Good to have you here. Okay, so I'll run through the rest of them, but before I do, are there any questions on that trade? Can you still hear and see everything okay? And was that run through okay? Okay, so just going to crack on and assume that you can hear and see everything fine. This is a trade. Also, BTC, this whole document will be BTC, and then we'll move on to ETH afterwards. 28th of July 2024, 1 hour double divergence. AO only just, as you can see again, it's a fairly tight divergence, so we're not going to have that clean double hump structure as we see here. Local sweep, okay, the local sweep is just simply noting that we've taken out this high here. High positive AD, okay? So this was in fact a extremely pivotal point in the markets. You can see that this just catalyzed a huge downtrend, right? So very, very key point in the markets here. You can see that it's also kind of a deviation here, right? So if I drew a horizontal ray here, you can see that this was actually deviating this level here. So we've got the local sweep, we've got the potential deviation, we've got a 1 hour double divergence, and high delta as well, right? So in the same form and fashion as the last trade on the hourly, you can see that we scoped down to the 30-minute here, and yeah, you can see the AO much clearer, right? It's now crystal clear. The only thing is that the candle bodies here aren't actually making higher highs, right? Because you can see the wicks that closed above that level and then closed below. Sorry, poked above the level and closed below. But the bodies aren't technically making that higher high on price. So just a note, right? But even still, they're flat and the AO is moving down, right? So we've still got some signals, some clues as to the momentum loss in terms of the buyers and demand in this area. So you can see very aggressive move, right? Very aggressive move, and this, as I said, catalyzed a major downtrend in the market. And this was a big reason for that, right? We have a large spike of positive delta, largest really on the page here, bar some stuff over here. But this coupled with the hourly divergence mainly, the local sweep, the potential deviation of this level up here, And also the reason, excuse me, also the reason I have this on the wall is because of the play out, right? It was a huge move. I did actually take this trade and remember closing it somewhere around here, right? It was a huge regret for me, but it is what it is. Okay, we live and we learn. Okay, so 25th of July 2024, 1 hour double divergence. You can see here, we've got it on the RSI, we've got it on the AO. Only criticism for me would be that the RSI isn't really overextended on either leg, particularly the second leg here. So I'd like to see it more arced and dip down more into the overextended region. If I could nitpick, pick and choose, and really tighten up this setup. Into a market structure defense zone down here. Okay, so this is where the bulls need to step in to defend the uptrend, right? So to defend this market structure that we see here. We've got high negative delta on the spike down into this MSDZ. A very strong hourly 30-minute pin bar, as you can see here, powerful candle. And again, a local sweep to the downside this time. So again, scoping down to the 30-minute, you can start to see some form of my process and analysis in terms of my execution taking shape, really stalking the hourly and then using that 30-minute for the tighter execution. And this is the 30-minute time frame here. And yeah, you can see that instead of taking this candle here for execution, we'd likely be taking this one here, which doubles our R on the trade or something to that effect, which is a huge difference just by going down to the 30-minute. Now, I don't want to go down too low, right? So the 30-minute for me is that sweet spot. I don't really like going down to the 15-minute unless on rare occasions, and then stuff like the 5-minute. Very rare occasions, like the ADA trade I took on the Trump pump a few weeks ago, where it's up 80% on the day, and the only div that was present was a 5-minute divergence. Largely speaking, these are my sweet spots, right? So stalking the hourly, and then 30-minute for execution, or at least partial installments. Okay. So S3 says, do you recall which candle you used for trigger on the 25th? So this trade here. Yeah, would have been the 30-minute S3, I'm sure. And I believe I was using footprints at the time. So I actually was entering down here, if you recall, from the group discussions S3. It was delta absorption I was seeing down here in this wick, so I actually entered this incredibly aggressively. But yeah, different trading style to what I'm operating on now. So down here we can see again, really clean cluster of negative delta. This is a really good example of local, not immediate delta. Okay, so I say this often, when you're using delta, you don't have to see a spike on this candle per se. As you can see, the candle we were talking about really doesn't have much in the way of delta. But this local delta here in the nearby vicinity absolutely contributes to the thesis, the trade thesis here, okay? So it's just that, you know, basically market selling occurring, doing so into stacked limit bids in this area. Eventually the sellers give up and price pivots. And also we have liquidations to boot, and bolster the trade thesis there. So next trade, 8th of July. This was a very tricky trade, a really hard one to position into actually. Simply because this is typically where I position, right? So we've got that higher time frame range low, and if you remember from the first example, there was a tight divergence in this area, and we could simply enter and then play it higher. This was tricky in that, as per my system, there was no trigger down here, which was aggravating, but anyway, had to skip it and not take it because there simply wasn't a divergence, and I need to see that divergence to enter. But I was afforded a second opportunity, a second shot here, because what happened is instead of diverging, we actually created a pocket of origin demand here. So price came back, probably got a lot of people horny for higher on this reclaim here, but then price nukes once again, does so into this origin demand pocket here on the hourly, and then gives us enough of a trigger to take this, because it's moved into liquidity, demand zone being the liquidity, done so with relative speed, and I'm going to assume there was delta here. Yeah, nice bit of delta here. Again, we've got the immediate delta, but really we've got this local delta that we're working with as well. Okay, so this very much does contribute towards the trade theory, and yeah, we have both in this case. Okay, so 1st of July here, you can see that we created this range on the hourly, came up, and as we did so, we can see the RSI not telling us too much here because it's reset, so this doesn't count as a divergence per se, but the AO giving us super strong clues here as to the weakening momentum. As you see, price is just about making those higher highs, and then the AO is making lower highs here. Okay, very severely, right? This is a severe momentum loss, and this was on the hourly here, but you can see on the 2 hour we have a double div, just about got that local sweep here, and we've got high delta as well. Okay, so this is the 2 hour div. You can see it's a sort of spiked div there, but very clean. Ideally, candle bodies could be a little bit higher here, but even still, it's still a very valid divergence, okay? Because we got the double confirmation across the AO and the RSI. Price is still technically making a higher high. We've got a small local sweep in the mixer as well. And this is again another potential deviation of this range play. And if we scroll down here, we can see nice spikes of positive delta. Right, we haven't had very much, even anything in the way here of positive delta, but still price has been able to grind down. This is pro trend delta, right? We're aligning with the trend here. The market is in a downtrend, and as it's pro trend delta, we weight it much higher, right? So I always say 2.5 to 3 times. So if you picture these bars here as 2.5 or 3 times bigger, imagine how big they would be on the page, right? How much they would stand out. You're probably looking at it at the moment going, it's not very much here, not particularly actionable relative to all of these clusters of negative delta here. But then if you scope that up in your mind and visualize it as 2.5 to 3 times, then it becomes very significant, okay? And that's how we need to be thinking about pro trend delta, okay? When it's clearly pro trend, weight it much more. 17th of June 2024, interesting play here, right? So most of the trades previously have had divergences. This hasn't, right? This was a play without a div. You can see it's very much pro trend again, right? So we're thinking about the trend first and foremost. We are in a downtrend, and we're looking for that liquidity sweep, right? So we've got price that grinds down here, spikes up super aggressively, 3 very strong green candles, takes out the high, and you can see the note here, pro trend delta at its finest. So if we go down here, we can see that spike clearly, and if you again magnify this by 2.5 to 3 times, it would be a glaringly obvious trade and trigger to take. ASJ, no, I don't use footprints at the moment. I dip in and out of exploring them from time to time, but at current I'm trying to size up on my trades, progressively so. So yeah, basically I'm just using these templates, right? This is my bread and butter. I dipped into ExoCharts a few months ago and was keen to look at aggregated footprints, but some of the data was slightly misleading at the time. So yeah, this is the highest confirmation I can get. Footprints can give me tighter entries, but they can also throw me some false signals. So when in the process of sizing up, it's not really what I want to be looking at, okay? Early members of the group will know that I was nailing Pico highs and lows pretty much to the wicks. But again, those are the good ones, right? So there are some false signals in the mixer, and when I am trying to size up and go heavier on trades, I'm looking for higher probability data. All right, so 1st of May 24, technically invalidated, right? 1 hour div, but good structure. So technically invalidated because the RSI is making lower lows here, not higher lows, as price makes lower lows, okay? As you can also see, we do not have that AO confirmation here, right? So both the RSI and the awesome oscillator making lower lows in concert with price. Put in a ton of AD and liquidations in doing so, and on the 30-minute we do have that double divergence, okay? But it occurred just afterwards, right? So you can see here, clean double divergence, price making lower lows again, and here we have a very, very tight entry, right? If we're taking the div confirmation candle, it would be here, and as noted, we have loads of negative delta and aggregated liquidations to bolster the trade thesis here, okay? So you can see repetition in the trades here, right? So I'm looking to do business at higher time frame extremities. In this case, we were in an uptrend on BTC, so I was looking to catch that higher time frame moving train as it swept range lows. And yeah, rinse and repeat basically, right? You can see the playouts, and of course, you know, it's this that gives me huge amounts of confidence in the trade, okay? So it's very easy when times like this occur to second guess yourself, right? To doubt yourself, and if you're operating purely on price action alone, you can somewhat get swept away by those thoughts and lean into those narratives too much. And having this just fortifies your mindset, right? It really, for me anyway, having used it for so many years, really makes that sort of theory and trade thesis bulletproof, whereby I could scroll on Twitter for hours and see everyone doom posting and saying this is broken down, it's going lower. I'm seeing the market through a lens that they're not, and I don't really care about the narrative that I'm listening to on Twitter or looking at, right? Yeah, it gives me a sense of smugness even that I know what's happening here. I can see how significant this delta is, and really skews the odds in my favor. Okay, lovely trade here. Tons of confluence, right? 8th of April 24, we have taken out a key high here, done so into supply here. Again, this supply is not very technical. For me these days, I'd probably call this an MSDZ, because for supply, I really want to see a sharp impulse in, sharp impulse out, and have more of a cluster here. So for me to mark out supply and demand these days, I'm a bit more stringent than I was when I wrote this. Regardless, you're still into you know, a pocket of liquidity here, okay? So taking out this level into this MSDZ, done so with speed, produced high AD in doing so, no divs until you go down to the 50 minutes. You can see here on the 4 hour, we're overextended, which is nice, but no divergences until you go down to the 50 minute. But the sweep confluence here was primarily speed, right? So when I take my sweep trades, I'm either looking for speed, divergence, or both, right? I say it over and over again, right? That's basically my primary trigger and execution for either sweeps or moves into liquidity, and here we have both of them. Okay, so a heavily confluence trade. Go down to the 50-minute, you can see very clean divergence. Okay, there's nothing to argue about here. This is a strong, lovely looking divergence, fully formed in the overextended region past the 70 level here. And then again, very strong candle, incontrovertible here. You can see that we just take that candle close here, 100% full installation on the trade, and that's it. We're in, locked and loaded, ready to go. Okay, so again, like I say, I rarely take 15-minute triggers, but in this case, very happy to do so. Okay, we have a very, very heavily confluence trade to work with here. And again, you can see that delta confluence here. So I often refer to delta as my green light, right, so to speak, and don't have that across alts, but I do have it across BTC and ETH. And you can see that you can just start to see how it all comes together, right? So we're using price action first. We're weaving together many layers of confluence, many concepts. You know, if any of you guys have taken my trading course on YouTube, there's 8 videos, 9 videos, and they all detail different elements of price action, speed being one of them, sweeps being another, supply and demand being another, divergences being another, delta being another. And then, you know, when all these elements come together, then it gives you tons of confidence, okay? Much more so than taking single trigger executions. What's up, Zaj? How are you, man? Okay. An anomaly in the markets, but one that does occur. Okay, so I believe I did a full form video on this trade in particular. It was called BTC Wipeout, an X trade, I think, because I took a 10R on this. And again, it's one of those times in the markets that's rare, but does occur. And when it does, you should be prepared, okay? Because they are very, very good moves to capitalize on. And yeah, a lot of people lose their shit. They get very scared and operate almost entirely emotionally, whether that's capitulating, panic closing their trades or spot positions, or trying to buy the dip and getting run through further and then cutting it for a loss, whatever it looks like. It's an absolute mess. So when these moves occur, be prepared, be rational, know exactly what you want to look for to enter, and don't do so until you do. Okay? So, pro trend total wipeout, right? Pro trend, complete nuke, right? Absolute, nuclear move here, wiping out anybody in this vicinity, okay? Extremely fast, obviously, no divs, speed is the sweep confluence, right? Like I was saying, for sweeps, need to see either speed or a divergence. This is the paragon of speed, right? You can't really get more textbook than this. And we get it in extremely large measure, and we have negative delta, okay? So again, it's everything that you'd expect to see here, okay? So for me, I wasn't entering here, right? So even though we see this candle here, this is not my trigger. We're entering in no man's land, in my opinion. I wouldn't enter down here either. I want to see that final low, that final absolute low, which is here, taken out for me to enter this trade, okay? And yeah, it was difficult to be that patient, but I was, and was rewarded for it, okay? If it had gone before that time in the charts, then so be it. I missed the move, and on to the next. I'm very happy with that outcome as well. 7th of Feb. So thought I'd just throw this one in there. This is on the wall as well, just to remind myself that yes, we've looked at a bunch of very confluence trades. But sometimes trading is much more simple than that, okay? And it's all context based. It's about the strength of the trend. And yeah, you know, people look at these patterns, these triangles, and go, it can never be that easy. Well, it can. You just have to have context in hand, right? So the trigger here is very simply just the breakout candle, okay? Be careful when you're marking these. Make sure you are in an uptrend and you're playing into the trend. Make sure you have market structure aiding your thought process to the downside. What I mean by that is, if these lows were making lower lows here, then but this upper trend line was still exactly the same, this would be much less appealing. I probably wouldn't even look at it, okay? So have that. It doesn't have to be a perfect triangle per se. This can be a flat top here, but as long as we have those sort of ascending lows here, then that's what you want to see, okay? Also make sure you have enough touch points. So you can see here, this is a very clean and clear objective triangle, symmetrical triangle, right? We can't start redrawing lines everywhere because we're not sure about where they fit to. You know, the wicks are shallow, and apart from this one here, which is still very shallow, it's a very objective, clear-cut triangle to work with. Delta-wise, this is where it gets quite tricky, and you need to have quite a bit of experience with Delta. Essentially, you know, I said this in the trading course in the breakouts video, because this is a breakout trade. You will see Delta almost always on a breakout. You just basically hope that it's not too much, okay? And I know that sounds very wish-washy, but unfortunately, that's the way it is, okay? So this Delta here is a bit of Delta, but it's not too much. If it looked like this, then we can't take the trade, okay? This is acceptable. As long as it's not too much Delta, then it's fine. And we also know that positive Delta hasn't really been doing much in the way of suppressing price here. So in terms of relative Delta, Delta dynamics, all of those concepts, we're fine to take the trade. You can see down here at the lows, there was a big spike of positive Delta, didn't do anything, okay? So this would be okay. This would be much more confusing, right? Essentially. But yeah, when taking breakout trades, you just want to see not too much Delta, as little as possible in the way of your trade, basically. Okay, so that's it for BTC. I'll move on to the ETH document now. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the meantime. So, starting with the Delta here, again, you know, you're starting to see the patterns on the Delta, right? These big Delta events, big clusters of Delta, they move the market, right? They form as key pivots in the market. Again, very strong divergences across the RSI and the Awesome Oscillator. Would prefer for the RSI to be a bit more arced in its structure, but this is still very much okay. Technical double divergence across the RSI and the AO. We very much have speed, as you know. That's what we want to see when we're talking about reversions in price. Double divergence across the 1 hour here. That being said, no left side confluence or level that's been taken in particular, right? So normally we like to work with taking out key levels. As you've seen from all the BTC examples, we normally have a line here saying higher time frame key low. Here we don't have that, okay? But we do have a huge Delta event and a divergence to work with. So this could be a trade that you take, but only because you see all of these in concert, right? Normally, we really do want to work with left side confluence. So if you do take a trade without that, make sure it's a rare anomaly. Okay, it has to be a very rare anomaly, like so. If it's not, don't take it. Okay, again, this page, this document is clearly littered with anomalies because this is one of the only times in the markets where I would take a trade purely based on delta and delta alone. Okay, so an incredibly outsized spike of positive delta here into zero price action confluence. Okay, so we've got a huge spike, but absolutely nothing going on here. We're not taking out any highs, we're not moving into supply, we're just grinding around, okay? And this candle here actually occurred like in here. So essentially no confluence price action wise, but an incredibly outsized spike of positive delta here. These are super rare, okay? So please don't lean into this too much. These are very rare. I just have this one on my wall just to remind myself that when you do see a spike which is extraordinary, let's say, that it should be actioned, okay? Essentially what this means is that there was tons of market buying in this area, suppressed by limit asks, and that buying just couldn't push through because there was someone that just simply wanted to keep price down. Okay, and when I see someone with that intention and that size, or an entity with that intention and that size, then I want to be riding that train, essentially. But again, this occurs 1 in 100. Okay, it's a very rare occurrence in the markets. Ray, to answer your question, these are just the Wall of Fame ones, not all the trades I took in 2024. Okay, so this is me going back and just seeing what the creme de la creme trades were. As you guys know, I use the gatekeeping journaling process, and this, to form the gatekeeping process. Anyone that's gone through that will know that as a prerequisite, I need a Wall of Fame. So this was me doing that exercise. So again, blind long, purely based on the delta, blah blah blah. Right, notes on the chart. Okay, so you can see here, delta taking out this level here. Again, trying to ride that trend, right? We're looking for that pro trend move and trying to align with the trend as best as possible to stack the probabilities in our favor. 90% of the time, that's what my system is about, guys, okay? Or yeah, even more potentially. Really looking to align with the trend as much as possible when there is a trend present. And again, because it's pro trend, magnify this 2.5 times, 3 times, we'd be around here, which then warrants this entry when set apart from these spikes here. Not that you'd be seeing this. Another note about why the delta is so useful is because if you look at the candle structure here, this wasn't just like a sweep of the level, leaving a large wick. This was a full-bodied green candle. And I remember very clearly at the time logging onto Twitter and seeing a bunch of people placing an SR level here and calling this a breakout trade, whilst I was positioning short. And there's something in that, don't let candle structure scare you off a good position if the delta is telling you something, okay? The delta is really what moves the markets. So don't worry about candle structure per se, because a lot of what happens in terms of candle structure is time-based, okay? So, this spike could have occurred, there could have been lots of market buying into an ask that occurred, then the candle just closed there. It doesn't matter, okay? So, if there was another 10-15 minutes on that candle, maybe a wick would have been left. But really we're seeing what we want to see. We've got that pro trend delta, we're taking out a key level here, we're pro trend, all good. Okay, so again, closed bodied candle sweep, high plus AD, pro trend, fade it, enter on the candle close, right? So we're fading that breakout trade here. As a new guy, can I see the Wall of Fame? This is the Wall of Fame, Drogs. Yeah, you're seeing it. It's just basically a printout of all of these, right? So these are the screenshots. These are the screenshots here. This is my actual Wall of Fame. ASJ, when taking, all right, just answer a question quickly. When trading a falling knife with speed, do you consider a strong bullish or bearish candle as confirmation that the knife has hit the ground and it's time to pick it up? It depends on the markets you're trading. So with BTC and ETH, lean into Delta, right? And with altcoins, as we don't really have any reliable Delta information or data, then simply, yeah, candle closes are great, right? I use candle closes and candle structure when trading altcoins very often, okay? So they feature as a core tenet in my trade thesis, and they crop up in my journal often, whereby on BTC and ETH, not really, okay? Definitely not as much. Especially if Delta is telling me something otherwise, as with this last trade here, okay? Okay, so we're on this trade here, right, so we're just marking out the Delta, go over to price, and we can see that this is a move into origin supply, which is pro trend, high plus AD, nothing else needed, just simple trend joining, okay? So this is just a note to lower confluence when the trend is strong, okay? So I always say this, when the trend isn't strong, right, when we're just ranging, bracketing like this, then you need lots of confluence to enter the position. If the trend is strong, then lower that confluence, because you just simply won't get it, and you want to catch the moving trade. A note here on local Delta, right? You can see Delta building up, right? So market buying occurring into asks, market buying occurring into asks, market buying occurring into asks. So we have tons of positive Delta accruing in this region, and yeah, as we do so, we take out this level here, put in a 1 hour AO div, and you can see that I note here inefficiency underneath, right? So I'm just thinking forward about the trade, and I know that there's a large inefficiency here, or an FVG, whatever you want to call it, where if price does revisit this region down here, it should accelerate through this, as there's very little in the way of demand in this region here in price, okay? So it's not just taking the trade here, it's thinking about the path the trade can travel through as well. As you can see, do not have the RSI confirmation here, but I do have a clean AO divergence, and tons of local Delta that's built up in this area as we take out this high here. That being said, just want to make a note on this. If you're new to trading these systems, I would urge you to look for a double divergence, okay? I just took this because I have a bit more experience. I know just when to bend the rules and those fine nuances. But if you're new to it, better to be conservative and protective and look for that double divergence when trading divs. Okay, so again, clean Delta event here, right? Tons of Delta building up in this area, liquidations to boot. And you can see here we're taking out twin lows, right? So should have a level marked here. We're taking out twin lows. Very, very attractive targets for sweeps, SFPs, and reversals. 1 hour double divergence here, right? So clean 1 hour div. And yeah, Delta and liquidations, right? Everything you need. Okay, so just noting these two spikes of the Delta here, 28th of April, and you can see this is the trade that occurred before, taking out, I mean, this is price action at its finest, right? You got this clean ETH range here, high, low, objective, not subjective, right? And as we come up and we pass through, you know, this is also nice, right? So you've got that jump up in price, We pop up past the range high, clean divergence, take this full-bodied red candle here as the confirmation candle, close, enter. We know we've got some nice bits of delta as well. Take it down. For me, this is the kind of trade where I'd have a limit at the lows here. So assuming entry here, stop here, this would be probably an 8-hour trade. And then you've got that reverse trade. So you're not just closing out the position, you're taking the flip reversal here and taking it to wherever you want to, right? Outsized delta. Okay, so very outsized delta, and you can see that we've probably got a divergence in here plus speed. I'm guessing that. I don't know the setup off by heart. This must be one of the setups that's up by the ceiling up there. But yeah, it looks like speed plus a divergence as we take out some levels with delta. Divergences indeed. Stretch to get here, right? So the speed, taking out triple highs here, 1, 2, 3. Double div on the 1 hour, right? Just on the AO, but present, and we've got the delta as well. Okay, so again, it's all the same stuff, right? It's a simple system, rinse and repeat. We're looking for divs, we're looking for delta, we're looking for sweeps or taps into supply and demand. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so these were 2 divergences that occurred on ETH, so twin divergences. We go over to the trading view charts, we can see them here, right? So again, double divergences on the hourly time frame. Just about enough positive delta, but double divs on the 1 hour seem quite reliable, so we're able to take them, right? So it's just leaning into the patterns that price produces. Again, take this down to here, rinse and repeat, or just maintain the first position. Don't cut it because you know that it's occurring again, and you can see that diverging price occurring. I believe that's what I did. I don't think I took this down to here. I think I took this here, didn't see any reason to close in this area. I think I did a full form video on this as well, an ETH trade execution video. And you can see that I took this trade and then stayed in because I could see the price was diverging yet again. No reason to exit early, even though I'm probably coming back to break even here on the position and then run it down to take out this low here. Yeah. Again, standout large delta event here. Okay, taking out higher time frame twin lows once again. Yeah, hourly divergence, right? So all of these trades that we're running through are essentially just they're mirrored versions of each other, right? So they're just echoing each other. They're all the same stuff, right? We're taking out higher time frame kilos or highs. All moves into supply and demand. We're looking for delta, looking for divergences, looking for that double divergence confirmation, etc., etc. I think this is that large nuke that we were looking at on BTC earlier, but occurring on ETH here, and that delta standout. Okay, so here, spike of delta, not very big, but relatively speaking, it's the biggest on the page. This was a very tricky trade to position into for multiple reasons, and to be honest, only just made the cut, and only did because of the playout, right? The playout was so severe, it catalyzed a massive pivotal moment in the markets, but in terms of execution was difficult. So it's up there as a note to myself that sometimes things can't be as textbook as all the other examples we've looked at. Okay, just a reminder more than anything. Entry would have to be on full-bodied high plus AD candle here. Divergence then followed. Again, the RSI could be more overextended here. And this isn't really true about entry having to be on full-bodied high candle here. We could take it on the divergence, knowing that it's a potential deviation play here as well. But what made it particularly difficult is would have to survive 3 days in this trade before play out. Okay, so it chopped around here. Normally with these deviations plus divergences, you get the close and then the follow through. But this came up to retest that entry point, retest where we would have gotten into the position, which would have made palms sweaty, right? And again, it's a note to self that sometimes we don't get those sharp playouts, but the cogs are in motion and then we do eventually, okay? So I suppose it's a note to self about having strong hands, right? And only really closing when you have valid reasoning to do so, not based on emotions. Okay, cool. So just gonna check the comments, but we are done, right? That's my Wall of Fame there. All the BTC and ETH trades from 2024 where I had available aggregated delta information to collate, and essentially what I'm looking for when I'm trading my system, right? And these trades, so the frequency was about a month, right? So a month, a trade a month basically during this time period, and again, conditions can change. I'm not taking a trade a month these days by any means. I'm probably taking 1, maybe 2 trades a week. Happy with the current performance, but this is a note that in some conditions it may be best to be more patient, be more stringent, and just size into those opportunities when they occur. So Strogs, my bad. Planning to print out setups and sticking them on my wall for ease of reference. Yeah, definitely get them on the wall. Don't worry about aesthetics. Ray, these trades are so sweet, makes me giggle. Yeah, exactly. And they're super simple, right? Super simple playbook. Anyway, guys, look, I'm gonna log off there. Have my dinner. Hope you guys learned something. Feel free to rewatch this, but again, there may not be any need because essentially I'm just repeating the same thing over and over again for all of these trades with slight nuances and variations. But anyway, hope you garnered some value from this video, and I will